All righty, episode 89 of the Paws Up podcast, and we're making some history, Jake. I'll let you run. I'll let you give us that history in a bit, but we have two guests on today. We have Teo and Javi. They're two athletic trainers. We're bringing a new perspective into the world of FIU athletics, which not many people know about or hear about. And these are the guys that keep all the athletes healthy. So we gotta talk to them today. But Jake, what's the history we're making today, my friend?
Well, the history we're making today, Kevin, is something that maybe we've tried to do in the past, just couldn't lock it down because timing and scheduling, but it made sense for this episode. This is the first ever episode where we have had two special guests on the show at once. I know we've had episodes with 4 total people when we had Johnny and, of course, the guest. That gets us to 4, but never 2 special guests at once. So this is really cool.
All righty. Javi, Teo, what's up, guys? How are you guys doing?
Good. How we doing, Kevin? Jake,
doing great. Thank you, guys.
All righty. So how we're going to do this is most of these questions will be to both of you. So whoever wants to go first can just answer it. And then obviously if there's a question, for one of you guys specifically, that speaks for itself. But just a lot of people might not know, what you guys do, what your field is about. If you guys just both want to talk about that a little bit, what the responsibilities are. I know you guys all work with different sports. So whoever wants to go first, just talk about that a little bit.
Javi, I'll let you start us off.
Cool. Sounds good. All right. So, my name is Javier Garcia. I work currently with the men's basketball program as an athletic trainer by title. Essentially, I've been at FIU for 3 years now. And I've worked with the men's and women's track and field team. I've worked with women's volleyball. I've also covered other sports. But majority of the time, I've been working with men's basketball right now on the spirit squads. And I essentially work on a day-to-day basis, trying to get guys ready, prepared for practice or games, whether that's anything healthcare, medical-wise, rehabilitation, bandages, game prep, activation, helping Teo with anything he needs prior to a game just to get these guys pretty much up and going for games. And it's my passion. I know it's Teo's passion. So, we're happy to be here and answer questions and help you guys out, give you a new look, new perspective on things.
Absolutely. My name is Mateo Agudelo. A lot of people actually know me by Teo. I say Teo because a lot of people can't actually pronounce my full name. But I actually been at FIU for 5 years now. Started off pretty much from the bottom of the ladder. Start off as a student manager with the men's basketball and moved up my way from a part-time role, strength conditioning. And then now I am the head of FIU men's basketball. Aside from that, I've had the privilege to work with, if not, I want to say about 80 to 90% of all athletics at FIU. So almost every team I've been able to work with. I think men's soccer, swim, baseball, and track and field are the only sports that I haven't worked with, but I've had the privilege to work with every other team. Now I have the opportunity to work along with Javi with the men's basketball. Aside from them, I also am the head of women's softball, tennis, and golf. So I'm kind of pulled from all directions, but like Javi said, man, this is a passion of mine that I have the opportunity to see the growth of these individuals, help them get to the next level as much as possible, and pretty much fulfill the dream of trying to get these guys available every single night, as well as for the girls, and making sure that we try our best to prevent injuries and giving them the opportunity to win games.
Definitely. A lot of these injuries, it's tough. And then you guys are a big reason why these guys are healthy out on the court, why these guys come back as quickly as they do. So obviously we appreciate that. And now, the viewers are going to appreciate that even more, just getting that perspective. Just for both of you, just talk about, what point in your lives did you realize this is something you wanted to, do full time, be an athletic trainer?
So always an athlete growing up in terms of just participating in different sports, playing with my friends, gotten into college really as a psych major. That didn't really work out initially. Was still kind of involved with sports just through extracurricular activities and stuff. But eventually I transitioned into an exercise science major. And then that led me to a master's in athletic training. And it was mostly initially a first interest in performance and helping get guys ready, or athletes, guys and girls, prepared for some type of sport. And then it got more into me wanting to actually get my hands on them, because I was more of a also healthcare background just because of my parents. And my family, some of them are nurses, some of them are pediatricians, and I've always kind of was exposed to the healthcare side of things. So being able to kind of merge those two worlds was a dream come true. And when I got to grad school, I got an opportunity to get that as a GA-ship, and then it led me to getting my first job here at FIU. I think early on, I knew I wanted to be an athletic trainer. Probably, I would say not early on. So most people think they got it figured out early on in college. Well, I didn't know until really my senior year, and that led me kind of a string of events after that led me here. But
Yep. So similar story to me as well. I actually didn't know until my last year when I was doing my undergrad. So I've been active throughout all my youth. I played soccer growing up. I attempted to play football, and the reason I say attempted was because actually broke my leg the one year that I played football. So I actually got exposed to going through the process of injury and coming back from an injury, to the result that now I have 8 screws and a metal rod on my right leg. So I came into FIU doing my undergrad actually pursuing recreational therapy. I did my 2 years of CCs, and then after that, I got deeper into the field. I had to do some clinical hours, and unfortunately, due to the exposure that I got with it, I didn't like what I was getting myself into. So I sidetracked. I came all around. When I said earlier that I started as a student manager, I switched my undergrad into sports and rec management with a +1 to do recreational therapy. So that was originally the path that I was taking. I had the opportunity to work the year after COVID. So this was 2020. That was my first year. So the 2020 to 2021 season, I got to work with men's basketball. And that's when I got the opportunity to meet Jack Sprague, who I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with. He went from FIU. He worked last season at Duke University, and now he's at JMU with football. So I worked with Jack for 2 years. This is, to this day, the best mentor that anyone could have, in my opinion. He's opened up a lot of doors, and I'm grateful for him. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for him. He gave me a lot of autonomy, a lot of open doors to be able to be myself, not only in the weight room, but also around all the athletes that I was working with. Year after that, I had the opportunity to work with women's basketball. That's when I got my first opportunity as a strength coach with a part-time role, and also my first year with women's basketball. So if I'm not mistaken, this was 2022 to 2023 season. This was also the time that I got to meet Coach Durfee, Noel Durfee, who was actually with football for the past 3 years as the head of strength conditioning, also the director. To this day, I don't know what he saw in me. He tells me, "Hey, Teo, you got something in you," and I still ask him, "What is it?" And I still don't know. So he gave me opportunity to work women's basketball. That was by far probably the most challenging year for me because I was making a transition from an intern to an actual coach. And I think for anyone that has gone through that process may often be hard, just because of the fact that you're separating yourself from, being an athlete or being surrounded within that group setting. I worked 1 year with women's basketball, 1 year with softball. After that, I became an assistant with football. So I got the opportunity to also meet and work with Dan and Troy, who were previously with us the past 3 years as well with Coach Durfee. I did 1 season with football. That was my 2nd season with softball, and also my 1 season with women's soccer. Amazing. That was the best time for me just because I got the most exposure to technology. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it, but we actually use a lot of technology in the weight room now. We use devices like force plates, perch, so for velocity-based training, also NordBoard. So another year of a lot of growth for me. And then circling back when Jack, who was at the time the head of men's basketball, left to go to work with Duke University, I got called back over to work with men's basketball. And this is where I just completed this past year working with men's basketball.
That's awesome. No, it's really fun to hear these coming of age stories for both of you guys to get to where you are now. And that leads me to my question to both of you. What would be the best advice you could give to a student or someone who just wants to pursue this same career? What would be the best advice you could give them to just get to where you guys are?
I definitely would say start somewhere in the kinesiology realm for undergrad majors, exercise science, pre-physical therapy, or a lot of swim schools have sports science or something related to that field initially. And then you're ready to apply for some type of grad school, whether that's going for another degree, everything usually now, you need a minimum master's to work in, I would say, most of the settings that we're working in now, whether it's Division I college athletics or if you're trying to make it to the pros, you got to start with something in that field, get your master's in it, gain mentors in that process. Definitely keep your professors close, your classmates close. Internships that you get involved with are definitely important. And then slowly you start making your way, getting to know people. You heard how Teo met his mentor, was exposed to all these other things because he was in the right place at the time. He went out and got these experiences and didn't just stick to like being in a classroom setting and learning the things that all his other students were doing. But not everyone gets opportunities maybe to continue to grow in the sports world. But you're definitely, if you stick your foot out there, someone's gonna trip and you're gonna find a good opportunity. I just think you have to have the minimum qualifications and continue to grow on your own certifications outside of the degree, make mentors, find yourself in the right place at the right time, continue to work hard, it'll meet you halfway kind of thing. That's probably the best advice I can give for a student looking to try and get into some type of field related to what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I second that. I think the best thing to do is if you're able to land an internship early on, I would say get exposed as much as possible and be a sponge, especially on in your career. Be as open to anything that's given to you. When I came into this, I was essentially kind of like the yes man. So whatever sport they gave to me, I said, okay, let's take it on and see what I get to learn from here. And ask a lot of questions. The more questions you know, the more you're going to be able to learn, and you're going to see that a lot of people that are helping you get to understand that you are willing to go above and beyond to get to the next level and not only learn from them, but learn from the field itself.
That's great to hear. Now, this question is for Javi specifically. I always want to ask a guest on the show this question, and lo and behold, I got happy when I found out that he is a native of Jersey. North Bergen, to be specific. I think it's like right next to Manhattan. It's awfully close. Why did you ultimately decide that SoFlo was the place to go, and talk about that culture shock you experienced moving down here to Miami?
Honestly, the one thing that made it less of a culture shock was probably that my family is Cuban. So coming down here, there was still a lot of Cuban people around. Less than what I would say there's up there now, but still. But yeah, Jersey boy originally, North Bergen, New Jersey. It's kind of where I grew up, where I'm from, the high school I went to. Most of my friends from back home are all there. My family's still there. Got this opportunity really by meeting the right people. And right after grad school, I was looking for jobs. I'm like, I do want to work in pro sports at some point. I know I have to get into some type of Division I school because it's hard to get into Division I schools when you don't have no Division I school experience, especially right out of grad school. So I was like, if there's any GA shifts and stuff like that, I searched around, I asked the right questions, I emailed some people, I heard things back, ended up coming down here for my graduate assistantship for a doctoral program they have at FIU. Specifically, it's like a very niche, doctorate in athletic training that I took here and was, lucky enough to get it paid for. But yeah, Jersey, definitely still home. Love Miami. Glad that I'm here. I've met great people such as Teo, other coworkers that I consider best friends at this point, and have welcomed me with open arms. Yeah, I love the culture down here. Definitely love the weather. But yeah, that's kind of how I ended up down here. And it's just, got an opportunity, said, hey, this is what I got. This is what I want to do. This is the next step. Got lucky, ended up in Florida. Some people end up in Minnesota or Louisiana.
Yeah.
For real, yeah. You got the best weather for sure. Javi, talk about Ascend Athletics and just what it meant for you to start a collective like that.
So Ascend Athletics actually came through the doctoral program I took at FIU. It is a nonprofit organization that I started essentially to find communities where we can go in and essentially provide information that it's crazy that you asked that question after what Teo was just talking about, because essentially I wasn't really even exposed to athletic training or strength and conditioning or a tailored program till I was already in college, studying this stuff. And so having the advantage of some people that get this information early enough, it makes a difference. If I would have known, going to the gym at 12, 13, 14 years old, doing literally these simple programs of reps, sets, intensity, things that we can really manipulate easily. If I knew that information sooner, or a coach maybe that impacted my career sooner, or a trainer or someone in the field that we're in now, I would have been ahead of the game, maybe even better prepared than the athletes that I was going up against, than the athletes on my own teams. And, that leads to certain things like scholarships, money later on down the road. And I think getting these kids this information sooner, is like relatively free. Like we can just have a collective of people that publish information online and go in and hand out brochures on, what you should be doing, how much water you should be drinking every day, how many hours of exercise you should be doing weekly, whether, 3 to 4 hours, depending on the age group. Like it's all little things you can just tell people and they'll remember. But it's like, oh, I should be getting this amount of exercise a week, or drinking this much water, or making sure my plate looks like this when I eat. So that was the whole thing, for my capstone project. And that turned into like me wanting to give back to kids that didn't have what I had, essentially, and, provide that information for free. Because like we already do that at work. I provide all this information to my athletes who are already further along in that journey. But, it impacts them differently when you give it to them at a certain age and they have more time to really like sit down and study and look more into it. And maybe you spark something in somebody and they go, follow their dreams or do something like that. Is small, but I thought it was relatively easy to do. And it was definitely something that I look forward to get more involved with, especially in South Florida, because I've been in New Jersey my whole life and I know most of the people I've helped over there, but doing that here is something that I do look forward to. So it's crazy you asked that question because it goes well with what Taylor was just talking about.
No, it's a great program that I urge, if you are interested, to check it out over at ascendsportsmed.com. Sticking with Javi here, you had the opportunity to have an internship with the New York Jets back in 2022. Just talk about what you learned there in 3 months with a professional NFL team that you've sort of taken back to your time here at FIU.
For sure. Yeah, that was definitely an impactful and very timely, I think, experience for me. It was literally in between me graduating from Montclair State University in New Jersey with my master's to, doing that before I came to FIU. So it was really the 3 months that it was in between graduating and coming down here. And it was at the right time. Like I said, a timely experience. I made a connection a couple years previous at a conference. So, professions have their conferences and their conventions every year. Try to go to the local ones or the annual ones. The national ones, because you're going to meet people. And this guy remembered me, emailed me maybe a year later, like, hey, are you still interested in this internship? I said, of course. Yeah, I've been applying to other teams. Heard back from maybe 2 of them. They said no afterwards. But the New York Jets guy emailed me like if it was kind of like a text message. He essentially said, hey, you still interested in this internship? Yes or no? I said, yeah, of course. Boom. He said, all right, I'm going to call you next week. Next week, I think it was our winter break in my last semester of college or my master's program. And, I'm like, oh, I don't have to charge my phone. I don't have school tomorrow. I'm just going to leave it not charging. I get a phone call at like 7 a.m. Batteries on like 7%. I answer the phone. It says New York Jets. I'm like, I get up from my bed. I'm like, hello, clearing my voice and stuff. Like, he's like, hey, I just want to ask you a few questions. I'm following up on an application, this and that. Literally asked me, what do you see yourself in 5 years? Why do you think your skills that you said you had on your application fit well with this position? And just simple questions. He's like, all right, cool. You're going to hear from us in a week or 2. You'll get the information. And I learned a lot there from those preceptors that I had. Ezra Bryson, who's with the Texans now. Dave Zufalato, who still, I believe, is the head of the Jets, but I haven't spoken to him in some time. It's hard. Like, it's a lot of people. It's athletes. Even with 5-6 trainers, you need all the hands you can get. Everything from hydration to taping to rehab to game prep to recovery to packing all the buses. It's a lot. It's definitely, if you're a football person, you love it. Me personally, I was always more of a fan of basketball, so I gravitated more towards that. And my goals were more basketball oriented, indoor sport, smaller roster, being able to do it by myself or with maybe 2 or 3 people instead of having 5 or 6 on my team. yeah, it was good. It's an awesome experience. That is something that not everyone gets the opportunity to do. And if you do get the opportunity to know somebody and work in the NFL or the NBA, or do it, that's gonna set up your career pretty nicely, at least early on, where you know some people.
Absolutely. And this question is for both of you guys. Just, being part of that FIU Hoops coaching staff, working with Coach Ballard and all the other assistant coaches, just talk a bit about that unit and just how much every member of the staff's input matters alongside Coach Ballard to ensure that, the team is ready for both practices and during games to make sure that they are the best that they can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Working with them, it's fantastic. I've had the luxury to work with them prior to being the head role of strength and conditioning with the program. So building that relationship with them early on in my career to where I am today has helped a lot. Coach Ballard's great in terms of giving us, I think for me and Javi, giving us both full autonomy into what we want to do, as long as every guy is dressing out every single night. So it's great, the buy-in process from them. Every time we have an off season prior to that, we get to sit down as a staff and speak together as to what's the goals that we want to achieve in the upcoming season. So just to give you an example, our last season coming in for my first season as the head role, our goal was to get our guys bigger and be able to last the games completely. So that's what I had in mind coming into the season directly. I had the luxury to work along with Javi, who helped me have individuals like Jonathan Abar, who just came back from an injury. We had him available every single night. And even guys like Dejon Giddens that also had an injury last season that ended the season for him. We had him available every single night. So it's a great staff. Sometimes, you get to see the coaching side of them. Sometimes you get to see the friend side of them. And it's great to see when, their goal is to win every single night. And no matter what, whether we're having a difficult week or a great week, they're the same people every single day with us.
For sure. So, go ahead, Javi.
I definitely agree. Just the camaraderie we have as a staff and a team is awesome. I feel like we're a group who's focused on, trying to change the outcome of games. And this season, like Teo said, we have been really working hard to try and get these guys available. And shout outs to him for getting them through that summer training program and into the season with aches and pains that pop up throughout the season. We were able to hold off a lot of things from occurring. I think we avoided all soft tissue injuries, to be honest. And I think the coach buys in on what we're about. He understands that me and Tay are professionals at what we do and strive to be the best at our individual fields, and working together is going to give us a competitive advantage. So he buys into those things and he trusts us, and that's awesome. I can't ask anything more from a coach other than buying and trust, because it makes my job so much easier. And it's all part of the process. It's all a small factor in pushing over the edge. So, giving that competitive edge, I feel like having me and Teo is a competitive edge, to be honest. And
it pays to be competitive. I appreciate it. So, Kevin, before we continue on any further, is it time for a pretty stacked news break?
It's pretty stacked, so yeah, let's do it.
All righty, let's take a look at Jake's news break, a look at all things FIU athletics and just FIU in general. Multiple sports here at FIU athletics have earned some awards for specific players for their hard work on the either court, the sand, or the field. So let's start off with FIU women's basketball. They have 4 CSC academic all-district selections, with seniors Binta Jata, Isnel Nadabo, Lucia Fleta Robles, and Aaliyah Pitts, all receiving the honor. For FIU beach volleyball, freshman Brianna Luoma and sophomore Katarina Drost have been named the CUSA Pair of the Week for the period ending back on March the 23rd. The duo won 3 of their 4 matches at the East Meets West invite at ATX Beach in Austin on March the 21st to the 22nd, with all of their wins coming against ranked opponents. And for FIU track and fields, Arndis Oscarsdottir and Michael Valentin, they both notched weekly awards from Conference USA back on Tuesday afternoon for their efforts this past week with their successes. So congratulations to all 3 sports and all the athletes that reached that got those awards. So This is a big one. Going on to FIU baseball. After years of perseverance, including working as an Uber driver and a substitute teacher to support his dream, former FIU baseball player J.C. Escarra has earned a spot on the New York Yankees opening day roster.
What's up, Ball Panthers? This is J.C. Escarra, catcher for the New York Yankees. Just want to say that I'm with you guys. Good luck. And I hopefully I see that support in the big leagues. See ya.
That was pretty cool. So Escarra played with FIU from 2014 to 2017. He now becomes the 19th player in program history to reach the major league. So congratulations to him. I think we're going to talk about him in just a second. Finally, the Miccosukee Tribe of Indians of Florida and FIU are launching an initiative to examine phosphorus in the Big Cypress National Preserve. Big Cypress is a protected area encompassing 729,000 acres northwest of the Everglades National Park, and phosphorus is an essential nutrient for plant growth, but excess phosphorus, mostly coming from agricultural and urban sources, can lead to ecosystem changes that negatively impact species and ecosystem functions. All of this is to say that the Miccosukee Tribe of Indians will contribute $600,000 over the next 3 years to help fund FIU water quality research in the Western Everglades region. So that was your look at Newsbreak. Let's get right back into it. We need to talk a bit more about Escarra, the Hialeah connection. So take it away, Kevin.
Yeah, Teo, you knew JC very well. You know him well. He's a Hialeah kid. They call him the Hialeah Cannon for a reason. Just what did it mean to you to see him get to the big leagues after everything he's been through? And what was your reaction when you found out that he made the roster?
No, yeah, it's such an amazing thing to know that someone from Hialeah is able to come out and represent our city. So JC is actually in the same circle of friends that I'm part of. Actually, I'm really, really good friends with William Cerruti, who was actually a pitcher for us during that same time frame that JC played here at FIU. And that's how I got to get close to JC. I wouldn't say I'm best friends with him, but we know of each other. And also, too, I went to school with his younger brother, who is Mikey Escada, who played for Barry University. And ironically, his family lives, if not backdoor neighbors, with my best friend growing up. So we're pretty much within the same circle to an extent. But it's great. It's great to see not only someone that's an alumni from FIU, but someone that I know of and I've get to see multiple times. He was part of the court of my friend William Cerruti, who got recently married. So it's great. Like I said, being able to see that someone from the city is able to represent not only the city of Miami. I was essentially raised in Miami my whole life. I came when I was 4 years old. So, 24 years later, again, to see a lot of people from here getting called up, it's great. But he's a genuine guy. He's probably the most hardworking person that I know of. And seeing his story and actually getting to see part of it in person, it's fantastic.
Hialeah is kind of a wagon for baseball talent. You have Nestor Cortez, Castellanos, Machado. Those are some big time names.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got to represent the city. I always say, I tell people that is the capital of Miami. So if they don't know about Hialeah, you have to go down there. You're gonna get a huge culture shock. So it's a huge pop mix with a lot of ethical backgrounds.
Oh, 100%, definitely. So this is for both of you. Just another season for FIU hoops. Just wrapped up. Unfortunately, didn't go the way many wanted, but got to win in the Conference USA tournament against Western. Finished with a 10-23 record. Just for both of you, just talk about what went right, what went wrong for the team, and what are the expectations now going into another year? It looks like it'll be a pretty different team at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's tough. It's tough. A lot of games I feel like we were right there. And we were a team that fought all season. I mean, I know the coaches will agree with me saying that is we were there every game we possibly could, healthy as we could be, fighting, trying to get wins and not making it over the hump many times. And in my opinion, just had unlucky moments where other teams went on runs and, we couldn't, claw our way back into the game, even though we might have clawed it up until 2 points, with 30 seconds left, and then it kind of slips away from us. But yeah, I think now it's more so about finding a group of guys that are ready to buy into the culture that the coaches want to implement and really have guys that are bought into basketball and only basketball, excited to play, to get down to FIU and impact and change, the direction of this next season. And I think you just got to get the right guys in there and in the gym all the time, which I think the coaches are going to do this offseason. So, I'm excited to see who we bring in. I'm excited to see how the team grows and develops now that me and Teo have been working together and the coaches understand what they need based off what happened this season. I think we're going to make a push, hopefully,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where our mindset it's at now. Being able to work with the team this past season, we got to see a lot of highs and lows. But it's kind of building up from those lows and glorifying the highs that we had. From a standpoint from strength conditioning and athletic training, as I mentioned earlier, we had a very successful season in terms of keeping our guys healthy throughout the course of the season. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to get too much into details about the individuals, but I think we only got to see one injury this entire season. And after a week,
nothing
that
kept guys out of games, nothing that kept guys out of games, which is awesome.
We had everyone dressing out every single night. So for us, that's a huge win, because at the end of the day, the best thing we could offer for a coach is having every single guy available every single night, because that gives them the opportunity to go deep into the depth chart and have the opportunity to potentially win a game.
Yeah, without a doubt. For both of you guys, just talk about the one game this season that you feel was the best example of how great that this squad could be when everything was absolutely clicking.
Wow, I would say
I think for go ahead, Javi. I think we might be thinking about the same game.
No, go on. I want to hear you say it first.
I mean, I think for me that game at the conference tournament with Western Kentucky was just unbelievable. Me and Javi talk sometimes as saying that we needed that game just because of the highs and lows that we went through the season, and seeing these guys come together and saying like, hey, like we can make something happen. Of course, that was a team that we matched 1-1 throughout the season itself. But coming down from a losing stretch and showing up and saying like, hey, we could potentially make a run, and having the performance that we did was fantastic. Seeing guys stepping up to the game, guys like Ashton Williams. To have a freshman tell these guys like, hey, we got to get after it. It's phenomenal. So that's where that true fulfillment of what you've been working on throughout the whole season of, making sure these guys, anyone, doesn't have to be a senior, to come up to the plate and say, hey guys, like we could do this together. All we have to do is just lock in as a team and make it happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Western game, knowing that we already had a win, we played a great game at home earlier in conference, I believe, where we beat them. And, going into it was like, look, we've already beat this team. We already know what we need to do. Seeing it all come together and guys, close out the game, shooting great from the line, like doing what they needed to do all season. It was kind of like, look, like this is all coming together now. Like, we're all here. We got an opportunity to make a run. And, that excitement is what is memorable. And like those moments of like, cheering on your team and, just getting ready for the game, prepping for it, like that whole, like, it's like getting the Army ready for war. It's awesome, that experience. And I'm glad I got to share it with these guys. And like Teo said, yeah, that win is like what we needed. We needed one at the end of the season just to like prove to ourselves really like, we don't go down without a fight kind of thing.
Talk about some of your favorite stories and conversations that both of you guys had with this team, maybe with a specific player or coach that you still think about.
Oh man. I think all these guys are unique to an extent. I think the one that I've had the most interactions with has been Vianney, and that's just solely because he came in so early with me in the off season. But this kid is very, very unique. The way he comes in every day, he has energy, whether he's having a good day or bad day. I don't know how he gets it done, but just the way he talks to you, it's just like, all right, man, just get the job done. But it's just great to see these guys grow from where they come in the month of May to where pretty much they finish off in the month of March. I can't one particular conversation doesn't stand out to me, but every guy is a unique individual, and it's never a dual moment with them. I think the great thing about working with the basketball, you have so many different backgrounds that you actually get to understand and meet a lot of different backgrounds from these guys. So, we got guys from like Syracuse. I've never been deep into New York, but Travis Gray, I learned a lot about where he's from. Guys like Jalen Brewer coming all the way from Indiana. So I've never been to any of these areas, and just hearing stories from their childhood, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Oh yeah, my bad.
I think guys have a special place in my heart. Honestly, like they're all individual people. Like Teo said, you have to kind of approach them all differently, and some of them, what makes some of them tick, and then you got to kind of discover other people's ticks and how to get them going and how they respond to being coached and being motivated, or when they're not having a good day. But I feel like my most memorable, and this goes even leading up to the conference tournament, was working and seeing Jonathan Abar this year just like thug it out all season, being able to stay healthy and playing every single game. I think we only sat him down for the 2 non-Division I games just because there was no need for him to play those. But coming from a season where he realistically missed because of injury due to having 8 screws in his ankle and having that fracture that was season ending, and the recovery being 7-8 months long, and just being every day in the training room, seeing that with my own eyes, 3-4 hours a day, whatever it took, whether it was, getting in the ice tub, which he didn't like, or, getting an hour of soft tissue work and doing easy exercises like towel scrunches with your toes and balancing exercises and strengthening work, like just him being able to lock in and give the season performance that he gave for us, and watching that all come together, and seeing him, seeing realistically other people on other teams that getting hurt and had nothing wrong with them, and this guy who came back from something so traumatic was able to impact the game, every game, as a leader, as an example, and have a good season. He scored his 1,000th point in front of his parents. We had a little moment in the locker room after our loss, Jacksonville State, man, and I legit let loose of tears because he came to me and was just like, man, I really appreciate everything you've done for me. Like, you've helped me up until this point. Like, I really love you, bro. And like, I could not hold back the tears. Like, this dude, mind you, he's 6'8". I'm like 5'11", and he's my head is in his chest. He's just hugging me, bursting in tears, and like seeing the culmination of these 2 years for him, like really got me emotional. And I don't normally cry that easily, but this dude really had me on the ropes. But that's a memorable moment.
Yeah, definitely. We had John here on the show, and it was awesome to see him get the 1,000 points, and honestly finished his career off on a high note. Had some really good games towards the back end of the season. So
Yeah.
Let's move on to softball real quick, Teo. I mean, 24-9. This team's rolling. There's no other way to say it. They're legit, and they have a good shot at winning the conference. Just what are you seeing from that group? And they're really rallying behind Mike Larrabee, which unfortunately, with the cancer diagnosis, but they're playing some awesome softball.
Yes, absolutely. I have this saying with Javi that I'm not gonna say a lot, but there's gonna be signs. There's gonna be signs, and I think the way they're performing is one of those, and it's great. Seeing this is my 3rd season with the program, so seeing them develop and the culture that they created in that program is so amazing. It brings a lot of joy for me. As I mentioned, they're actually one of my earliest teams that lives in the weight room, so I see them as early as 6:20 in the morning, nearly almost every single day. They are hard workers, and no matter what, they get after it every single day. I actually am with them a lot of the time. I'm actually seeing them a lot more than their coaches for the most part, especially during that off-season period. Just to kind of give you and then all the viewers a little bit of insight of how their training is. They come in with me in August, and they're with me all the way till November. And they're with me every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, anywhere from 6:30 to 7:30. And, I'm getting after it with them. I think one of the most joyful experiences, and we were actually talking about this today earlier doing lifts. It's fun for me. They didn't like it, but we actually had to do conditioning, and we were pushing prowlers for time. And, seeing some girls screaming, some girls crying, some girls throwing on the floor saying they can't do it. And seeing the results that they're having now, I said, guys, you guys have been through a lot harder things than, being down a couple runs. And and just it's amazing. It's amazing to see what they're doing. It's unfortunate the situation that Coach Larrabee is going through right now, but I know he has the full support from the entire team, not only from myself but the entire staff. Beverly, who is our new athletic trainer, Beverly Owens, has been doing a phenomenal job having all these girls available. So I give huge credits to her. I'm very, very, very loving of the athletic trainers because they make my job easier. And along with Javi, but someone like Beverly coming into a program and allowing these athletes to be out there every single night or every single day, it's great. But yeah, it's joyful. No matter what, whether it's a high or low day for them. Like I said, I have to bring the juice for them sometimes, but even if I don't have the juice, they bring it in for me. That weight room is super loud. I think anyone that enters the OBCC could hear them screaming early on at 7 o'clock in the morning, and you don't have a lot of teams that do that. And unfortunately, and actually, they're one of them. So it's great. Every one of them is a different character, but it's so great to see how they come together collectively as a team, as a unit. We have this saying that's called "Play for B." So play for Coach Larrabee, and I think that's the slogan that we've been going through for this whole season. And aside from that, it's just, like I said, building the culture that the coaches have been doing for the past couple of years. It's great to see how it's been flourished now to this year.
Yeah, they have a big matchup this weekend, and then obviously they're welcoming FAU, which as I think we always look to say Owls down here. So
Yes, sir.
So I want to ask you both, just what is it like having to create these workout plans for all these athletes, and maybe some athletes need an individual one since they're rehabbing? Just what goes into, what you guys want them to do throughout the course of the week? Because as you mentioned, Teo, and you guys work out 4 or 5 times a week, so it's not easy to maybe for them to stay consistent, but you guys are able to do that for them.
Yeah, so it's a unique approach. It actually all starts early on in the off season. So I'm a big saying that as soon as our season ends, the next day my new season begins. Right. So my new season begins as to, hey, you just went through this entire season and your body's broken down into so many ways that now I have to make sure and being able to collaborate with the athletic trainers to make sure that the bodies are moving how they're supposed to move. From there, just to kind of give the viewers a little bit more background about how we go about it in terms of strength conditioning. So we usually do a full sports analysis. So we have to get a full understanding of the sport itself, all the demands of the sport, the energy systems, the different positions of the sport itself. So, you talk about a team like softball, you have catchers, you have pitchers, you have the position players. Sometimes you have players that they're thrown in to be able to steal bases. So I got to be aware of all these situations, right? From there, typically in the off season, when my athletes are back at home in the summer, they get a training program for me that actually prepares them to come into the fall with me, so I don't have to go through the tedious and small details. From there, just to give an example, on the off season, on a 4-day plan, we focus one day on pure speed. So, for instance, on Mondays, we'll focus directly on sprinting and making sure we're being proficient on our Olympic movements on Mondays. On Tuesdays, we'll tap into conditioning, and we'll probably go into a full body hypertrophy block and strength block over the course of the season. On Thursday, we'll tap into some short accelerations, and then Friday we'll tap into conditioning as well. So that's the course that we go through the entire off season. Now it gets a lot more tricky once we get into preseason and in season, because now I got to make sure I complement the sport. I try my best not to mimic the sport in the weight room. I try to complement it. So I say, hey, I want to make sure that anything that I'm doing in the weight room is going to help you when you get out there on the field. So believe it or not, once we tap into the month of February, in just one training session, I have a positions lift, I have a catcher's lift, I have a pitcher's lift. And then, of course, if by any chance I'm fortunate to have any injuries, I have a separate injury lift for individuals. So I think the girls could tell you themselves, not one day is the same. Now, you could say, hey, every Monday we do very similar exercises, but that's because we're progressively overloading the exercises. But what we do on Monday, it's not the same thing that we're going to be doing on Tuesday. It's not the same thing that we're going to be doing on Thursday. It's not going to be the same thing that we're going to do on Friday. Our job as strength and conditioning coaches is to try to prevent injuries as much as possible. I can't stop injuries, unfortunately. There's just freak accidents that happen from the nature of the sport. But my job, along with the job of athletic trainers, is to collaborate to say, hey, how can we make sure that if the hip flexor gets overly stretched, how can we make sure it doesn't get pulled, right? We don't have a hip flexor injury, as well as making sure that, for my pitchers, when they're pitching, they're going up, they're throwing about close to 100 pitches in a night. How can they able to sustain the amount of power that they're doing throughout those pitches? So it's very unique. I want to say with the sports that I work with now, it's the most challenging in terms that I actually have to use my most education in, right? Because, a sport like basketball, I have 15 guys in my roster. 15 guys don't lift the same way. You know what I'm saying? I have a guy that's close to 7 feet tall, and then I have another guy that's close to my height, about 5'10". And one guy could do a front squat, the other guy can't do a back squat. Another guy can't do either or, so I have to do single leg exercises. So it's great and it's fun because it allows me to be creative. And I think that's a big thing about being in the field of strength conditioning or even athletic training. Creativity does a lot for us, right? Sometimes you walk in, you have this process, hey, this is the perfect program, but when you get in and you get these athletes, you're like, okay, this is not what it's going to look like. So we got to throw it to the garbage and redo everything again. But I think collaborating with the athletic trainers is the biggest part of it, because that's what allows me and my part of the job to be successful. Because for individuals like Javi, Beverly, Najib that I work with for my teams, they're the ones that allow me to be creative because of how great they do their job.
Yeah, so going, to answer the question as well, I think working alongside the head of strength or conditioning for the men's basketball team, Teo, it makes doing the schedule easy. Like he says, we're looking at, all right, if they're doing this amount of intensity on the court, how can we complement that in the gym by doing something that is going to keep them prepared and fresh for that, but not tax those same systems to the point where they're missing layups or missing free throws. So, tying it in, like, travel days, even like if we're leaving on Thursday, like what certain things are we not going to have access for on the road that we got to make sure we check off before we leave. So these guys are mentally, physically prepared to go out there and do these things. Working, collaborating together, like Teo said, also when these guys are, post game, making sure they're coming to see me to get some type of soft tissue work, lymphatic drainage, hop in the compression boots, simple things is even just like have some mobility. Like Teo is the king of mobility all season. And literally will send the text in the group chat at any point throughout the day. Mobility, it's going to be short, but it's going to be efficient and it's definitely going to get the job done. It's going to get these guys, essentially moving because they've been sitting on a plane for 2-3 hours, sitting on a bus for another 2-3 hours, sitting on a plane, not being able to move their legs because they're in an aisle seat. In a middle seat or something. So, it all those little things we have to think about. It's like, well, how do we keep these guys moving healthy, but not tax them to the point where it's negatively affecting them on the court? And yeah, it's phases, like in his training programs, it's phases in rehabilitation with, like, if a guy has a fresh ankle sprain today, he's not going to be able to do what he did yesterday. We're going to have to start by doing towel crunches on the ground and simple ankle 4-way range of motion stuff. And maybe in 2-3 days, we can progress that. But it's like knowing those things, being able to communicate with the team, being able to, me telling that to Teo is not going to sound the same as me telling that to Coach Jeremy Ballard. Like, I'm going to tell Teo exactly what it is. Look, these are the things that are happening. This is what I think he needs. I'm going to tell JB, like I've talked to it with Teo, this is essentially what we think is the best plan, just based off our our experience and stuff like that. So it takes a team. It definitely takes a lot of minds, focus on one goal. So I'm glad I have the people around me to help that out. So, I'm grateful for you.
Yeah, we also have the luxury to, as I mentioned earlier, to use technology for our training. So we actually have connects on units. I don't know if you guys have, when you guys go to games, the guys have like a bra strap that it looks like. So those are connects on units. So we actually able to get a lot of information from that. A lot of it is we're able to collect volume and intensity. We use it for both games and practices. So just to give you an idea about practices, I'm able to have a full breakdown of every drill that we have in practice, and I'm able to accumulate how much volume each drill is individually. as well as the intensity. So I follow the quadrant Swiss system with basketball. It was created by Daniel Bull, which he's the head sports performance with the New Orleans Pelicans. And pretty much the concept with it is to keep our high days high and our low days low. So pretty much whatever we're doing on the court, hey, we're having a very long and stressful practice, I'm going to match that in the weight room itself. Why? Because I need to make sure the body's able to recover and not get a full different roller coaster effect of different stimuluses, right? So it makes no sense of a guy going through an easy practice and then we come into the weight room and I overstress them. And then the next day they have a stressful practice and I go very easy with them in the weight room. I think that's a recipe for disaster. So we're able to use technology such as Connexon. So people might know them as GPS trackers. We also have force plates. So we're able to test counter movement jumps with the guys. I use 4 different metrics with them. So I get a modified RSI. I also get an eccentric loading with the guys. I get a concentric RPD. And then the power output. So I actually track all that information throughout the course of a season. So the great thing about that is, for instance, on the eccentric movement. So eccentric movement, it's on the downward movement. So think about a vertical jump when you land, that force absorption. Let's say that individual jumps, I'm able to see, hey, does this guy rely more on his right leg than his left leg? So for me, that's a red flag. One, because, hey, now I got to make sure I balance your body out. And at the same time, now I got to communicate that with Javi and say, hey, Javi, such and such relies more on his right side than his left side. So, there might be a moment in time in practice or in a game where he has a false movement on the weaker side, that could cause an injury for us. So our main goal is to make sure these guys are well balanced and performing at the max capacity. And then we also use technology like NordBoard, so we're able to test the eccentric portion of the leg curl of an athlete. Sport like basketball, it's very high demanding on change of direction. So we got to make sure these hamstrings are very, very healthy. We were successful in terms of not having a hamstring injury this season. I think a big part of it was that, just because of testing every single week, we're able to get some information on these guys. And not even that, let's say we have an injury. Okay, we have a baseline where these guys were prior to an injury. Now we have to get them back to where they were before that injury. And that's where the big collaboration part comes to play.
That's some great insight, guys. So that was extensive, and that was some
that was awesome.
Here. Yeah. So
yeah, man, we could talk about athletic training and strength and conditioning for hours. Trust us.
I believe it.
Me and Javi could yap for a little bit. But yes, I think I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think one part that Javi said, and it makes me laugh, and I think the coaches have this on me. They call it ility, and yes, I think I am the king of mobility. Every single day, to an extent, we will do some form of mobility. I think, hey, if you can move your body how it's supposed to, we're gonna stay healthy to an extent. Right now, let me maximize that opportunity. But yes, mobility every single day. So for all the viewers, especially my athletes, if you could do mobility, do it every single day. Trust me.
There we go.
Mobility, healthy.
Take it from these guys. They know what they're talking about. All right, let's start to close up the show here with some fun rapid-fire questions. Now, pretty simple one, straightforward. Who is the funniest player you guys have worked with? Can be across any sport.
For myself, I think one of them, and it's just a big standout right away. It's with softball. I think Lindsey Burrows. She is probably the clown in a good way of the team. She is a high-spirit individual. Makes everybody laugh, makes me laugh, makes the team laugh, makes the coaches laugh. But yeah, I think Lindsey Burrows is one of them for me.
Damn, on the guys' side, let's see, men's basketball side, who's funny, man. They all have their quirks. Onyx is a pretty funny guy. I think he just says things out of pocket. But he can be funny at times. They all can be funny at times. Next question.
All right, now, so who is the funniest trainer / FIU employee on the men's basketball staff?
I want to say Colin Campbell. My man is a different breed. Colin Campbell, absolutely, that's my guy.
I got jokes for everything. I love Colin. EC.
Yep. Alrighty. So who's getting the aux cord and who's not getting the aux cord? We could do it on the men's basketball staff or player.
JB's
I
his
think-
playlist is pretty.
Go ahead.
So he has a little bit of everything, but he puts an oldie sometimes. He puts some R&B. Who not to give it to? Damn. What do you got, Tail?
I think I'll give the aux to Coach Ballard or Onyx. I think Onyx plays some good music sometimes.
Yeah, Onyx.
I would not give the aux to my guy Cole Williams. Nuh-uh. Not doing it. Not doing it.
Damn. Okay. Good to know. Where is your go-to spot to grab food on campus these days?
Oof.
Man, the spot I hit the most, not a food spot. Well, actually, it has some food stuff. Café Bustelo. Get your colada. Get your little cafecito fix. Really, the cafecito fix for me. That's really where I spend the most time.
I spend too much time in the weight room, so I think our nutrition table. That's my spot right there.
Maddie's table. She got all the snacks in there.
Yes, Matt. Huge shout out to Maddie, our new dietitian.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just
Alrighty.
got staff.
Who has the best? Not who has. What are the nicest men's basketball unis right now?
Oof.
I think it's pretty easy.
I love those blue ones, man. They give me like old school, like royal threads, like I don't know, varsity style high school basketball. Like I love those blue navy ones. The Vice ones I feel like are too white in my opinion, but they are very cool. Like those will come in a second for sure.
Yes, I agree, Javi. The blue unis are probably the nicest ones that we have. I like them.
Very clean, very.
That's awesome. All right. So an anonymous person by the name of quote Kingpin end quote has relayed a question to us. You need to answer this as seriously as you can. What is motion?
Oh.
HM, heavy motion.
Heavy motion. That just means you're going with the flow. Like you're going to the right places. You're doing the right things.
Yeah, it's like the juice and the sauce. It's one of those things. Some people got the juice, some people got the sauce. Motion. That is awesome.
Kingpin got motion.
Definitely. So. Yes, he got motion. He's definitely got the motion.
Shout out to him. Okay. Great question.
That definitely, that's definitely an insider.
Awesome.
If you don't know, you're probably not going to know. But if you know, you know. But
yeah.
Alrighty then. I think we'll wrap it up there, guys. Mateo, Javier, thank you guys so much for spending some time with us today, and we just appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Sure.
Thank you guys for having us. I just want to give a huge shout out to entire FIU Athletics. With all the people that we get the opportunity to work with. Our new strength and conditioning director, Matt Hickman, he's been doing great stuff since he got in here, but pretty much everyone else that's with us is just a great appreciation for the opportunity you have given us both.
Yes, we're grateful. Thanks for having us on the show tonight and, sharing a little information on what we do and stuff. Super grateful to work for FIU, given the opportunities that we're given. So, great people. Can't ask for anything else, anything better.
All righty. So that was episode 89. 90 is around the corner, and it should be a pretty fun episode. I think we'll get to it when we can. But until then, guys, thank you so much for watching. Of course, support the basketball team when the season eventually rolls back around. And
let's get it.
Until then.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. Paws up. Yes, sir.